Hey folks, this is the Nazgul. In today's video, I will show you what some of you may consider secret or new features about the use of the F-18 radar, but mainly I will show you how I use it. In response to one of your questions, compared to the F-16, the F-18 radar does require a bit more skill. I will show you some differences between the radar of these two aircraft, differences between the RWS and TWS modes, and finally, I will show you an example of a kill at 50 miles away. As we will talk a lot about this in this video, let's go. Back in the cockpit, first we will select the 120, our Fox 3 missile. Here on the radar screen, we have some important buttons that we use. I recommend that if you have a HOTAS, you configure some of these buttons. The first button is this one. We can switch between RWS and TWS modes. In this one, we choose how many layers the radar will scan. It varies from 1 to 6. If we choose 1, the radar will scan the same level every time. If we choose 6, it will scan 6 layers, returning to the first one after scanning all 6. So, the greater the number of layers, the larger the scanned area will be, but the process will take longer. I usually keep it at 4. Notice that the values above and below the cursor become more distant as we increase the number of scanned layers. This is because the scanned area becomes larger. These numbers are the maximum and minimum scanned altitudes, here represented by 33,000 and 7,000 feet at the cursor position. Below, we have the horizontal amplitude of the scan in degrees, which varies from 20 to 140. I usually use 40 or 60 degrees. Same as the previous button, the higher the number, the longer it will take to perform the entire scan. The ideal is to find a combination of layers with the scanning amplitude so that the scanning process does not take too long and we can track our targets. So, I usually select 4 layers and 40 or 60 degrees. Also, this is one of the buttons that I configure on my HOTAS so that I can quickly change the scanning. On the right, we have the 2 buttons that we use to increase or decrease the length of the scan in front of us, which varies from 5 to 160 miles. I usually use it at 80 miles for greater situational awareness, or at 40 or 20 when I'm going to shoot a missile. These are also 2 buttons that I have configured on my HOTAS. It's worth noting that the top of the screen represents the maximum distance selected. The bottom always represents the minimum, 0, or in other words, our aircraft. On the sides, we have rulers that serve as reference, with the middle marking being half the distance. An important information shown here is the BRA, which stands for Bearing, Range, and Altitude. It helps us to have greater situational awareness when we look outside the cockpit, share information with other allies, or need to find an enemy that the AWACS has informed us about. Here it shows us the bearing and the range. The altitude is shown by the cursor. When we select an air-to-air weapon, these are the 2 screens that appear. If we press sensor control switch left twice, we will change the left screen to the 2-dimensional forward view of the radar. We don't have depth information, but we do have vertical and horizontal information on it. We can see that the area of the yellow square on the left screen varies according to how we change the number of scanned layers and the horizontal scanning angle. Here, it's easier to see that the number of layers influences vertically and the angles influence horizontally. Generally, I select 4 layers and 60 degrees, which provides a good scanning area. When we choose a scan angle smaller than 140 degrees, we can direct the radar antenna by positioning the cursor anywhere in the corners and clicking one time. This is one of the differences between the Hornet's radar and the Viper's radar. On the F-16, the radar antenna follows the cursor automatically. Here on the 18, we need to click. Now we have an Allied aircraft ahead. Note that this screen is active and selected because it is marked with this small diamond. If there is any aircraft within the scanning area, and we press the sensor control switch once more to the right, because the selected screen is the one on the right, our radar will automatically locate the aircraft, entering STT mode. To unlock the target, click the cursor anywhere on the screen or press undesignate nose wheel steer switch. STT mode is mainly used to shoot Fox 1 missiles, which require the support of our radar to guide them to the target along the entire trajectory. The disadvantage is that the opponent will receive an alert of our firing and can easily evade our missile. In addition, the STT can also be used with other types of missiles, but we will see that we can do this with the RWS or TWS mode more efficiently without alerting the opponent too early. Still here on the RWS mode, if we click once on the target, we will be performing a soft lock. Note that we now have the Mach speed and altitude data. As long as the aircraft is in the scanning zone, we will be receiving this data. In this case, we can now shoot our Fox 3 missiles regardless of whether we are within the parameters yet. Note that in soft lock, the radar does not lock the target. Therefore, our adversary will not receive any alert about our shot. They will only be warned when our missile enters pitbull mode, which will occur a few seconds before impact, when it will start to be guided by its own radar. However, until our missile enters pitbull, we have to keep the target within the scanning area. By doing this, our radar will pass on information about the target's position to our missile. If we lose the target before our missile enters pitbull, we will miss our shot. Many people think that this type of shot is only possible in TWS mode, but it is also possible in RWS, with a small advantage that I will explain later, which is that RWS has a slightly stronger signal, making it more difficult for the enemy to escape using the jammer or turning cold. Now, if we click a second time on the target, we will activate the STT mode seen previously. By clicking not on the target or pressing undesignate nose wheel steer, we exit STT mode and return to RWS. One secret is that if there is any aircraft in the scanning area and we press undesignate nose wheel steer, we will also be able to activate the soft lock. The most important thing when using soft lock is that we need to keep the target in the scanning area. When leaving this region, the target will start to blink for a few seconds. During this period, our missile will still be guided. However, in the end, if we do not direct the radar to the target in time, we will lose its data, and thus our missile. The good thing is that we can edit and choose how long the radar will keep the target data without the radar scanning it. To do this, first press Data. Then at the top, we select the period that we want the radar to back up the position of our target, which varies from 2 to 32 seconds. During this period, our radar will make an estimate of where the target will be and will thus keep guiding our missile. I usually keep it at 8 seconds. A much longer period may mean that we won't hit the target, because it may not be where our radar estimated it to be. To make things easier, we can press Set. This will save our settings when we select our missile again. Back to our radar, let's configure it then and keep it in RWS mode. Many people don't know that, in RWS mode, we can also engage not just one but two targets at the same time. Clicking once on each of them will put both in soft lock mode. One of them has a star and the other has a diamond. The one with the star is the first target. The other will be the next. By pressing undesignate nose wheel steer, we alternate the priority of the targets and choose which one we want to fire at. So, to shoot at both aircraft, we shoot the first Fox 3 missile, press undesignate to select the next target, and then shoot the second Fox 3. If we want, we can click once more on one of the targets, which will switch to STT mode. However, the radar will stop scanning the area and focus on just one target, alerting the locked aircraft of a possible shot. One of the disadvantages of the F-18 radar, compared to the 16, is that the radar scanning area does not follow the cursor. We have to click on a region for the radar to scan that area. But be careful not to click on an aircraft. If we want to direct our radar to an area but click on an aircraft, our radar will enter STT mode, which is not important if we want to stay in RWS mode. We have to click a little above or below so that this does not happen. Another disadvantage is that to exit soft lock mode, we have to move the scanning area, remove the target from it, and wait for it to stop blinking. On the 16th, we just have to press a button. Here we will simulate two simultaneous shots at two aircraft. First, we configure our radar the way we prefer. Note that we are using RWS mode. Ahead we have two friendly aircraft serving as targets. They are 20 miles away and are also already in the area scanned by our radar. Since we are in RWS mode, we need to click on them once to select them as targets. The target that will receive the first shot has a star, and the next one has a diamond. Also note that on our HUD, the first target has a square, and the second one has an X. To change the priority of the targets, press undesignate nose wheel steer, as mentioned before. So, Fox 3. Press undesignate and Fox 3 on second target. We have this countdown that shows in seconds how much time is left for the second missile to enter pitbull mode. The good thing is that this type of shot doesn't alert our targets unless our missiles activate pitbull mode.
Springfield 1, defending Bandit at Bulls 090 for 100.
Our first missile has activated pitbull mode. That's why we're hearing that the first aircraft is defending. "10 seconds for the second missile to activate pitbull mode. When it changes to TTG, it means that pitbull mode has been activated. This value is an estimate that our radar calculates for the missile's impact, and that will depend on the context, the speed, altitude, and aspect of the two aircraft that are fighting. When TTG appears, we can turn off the radar and turn away, because our missile will be guided by its own radar. Now in this second example, we will perform a shot but with a difference. We will shoot and perform a maneuver called crank, which is nothing more than making a turn to one side in order to make it difficult for the opposing aircraft to shoot, as well as not flying directly towards a possible shot. Fox 3. "10 seconds to pitbull mode. Notice that when we make the turn, our target starts to leave the scanning area. When this happens, our target will start blinking for the time we selected as radar backup. If at the end of this time, we don't direct the radar towards the target region, we will miss the shot. Since we chose 8 seconds of backup, we have 8 seconds to change the direction of the radar. To do this, we choose a place on the radar and click. I don't recommend clicking on the target, because if we do this, the radar will switch to STT mode and alert our target about our shot before the missile activates pitbull mode. Fox 3 on second aircraft. Another thing is that we have to monitor the top and bottom of the scanning area, shown on the cursor. We have to keep the target between these two altitudes. Changing the scan area again. "10 seconds to hit." Let's look at the TWS mode now. Its main feature is that we can engage more than 2 aircraft at the same time, remembering that in RWS, we can engage up to 2. Another feature is that when scanning an aircraft, the TWS mode automatically applies soft lock to targets, informing its speed and altitude without having to place the cursor over it and click once. By pressing undesignate nose wheel steer, the radar will jump through the contacts, indicating with a star which aircraft is currently selected as the target. So, the 2 advantages of TWS mode are that we can use it to shoot at more than 2 targets. In addition, it automatically selects the target without us having to click on it once. However, one disadvantage of TWS mode is that, because it automatically reports data from the various aircraft the radar is scanning, this makes the radar signal more susceptible to being broken when the target uses a jammer or turns cold. Thus, in my opinion, TWS mode would be more suitable when intercepting large and slow aircraft, such as cargo planes or bombers, which are commonly seen flying in formations of 4 or more aircraft. When intercepting other fighters, it's best to use RWS mode, which allows us to engage up to 2 aircraft at the same time. Note that it's most common to see groups of 2 fighters flying together in DCS. This way, RWS can shoot at both at the same time. Furthermore, since RWS is not overloaded by monitoring all aircraft in the scanning area, but only those selected with the cursor, its signal is more difficult to break. Now I'm going to take the opportunity to show you some more secrets of the F-18 radar. Notice in the 2-dimensional front view of the radar how the scanning area moves and changes when we manipulate the scanning level and other parameters such as scanning direction and width. Another way to change the distance or length of the scanning area without using the side buttons is to move the cursor to the top and back to increase, or move it to the bottom and back to decrease. If we move sideways to the corners and back, we change the azimuth angle or width of the scanning area. To the left we decrease, and to the right we increase. Another button I often use is the sill. It is used to silence the radar, useful when we want to stop it so as not to alert our opponents to our presence. We can also use it to exit acquisition modes. When we activate one of the modes, pressing the sill button returns us to the normal radar screen. We can also press undesignate nose wheel steer if we want to exit acquisition modes and return to radar. Folks, don't forget to give your thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. There's also the Members Club where, for a very small price, you can have access to my Discord, suggest topics for videos, and have your questions answered more quickly. Next, I will show how it is possible using RWS mode to shoot down an opponent at about 50 miles. In addition, in my videos flying on multiplayer servers, you will find several examples of how I use the F-18's radar, 90% of the time using RWS. Back in the cockpit, we have an enemy about 60 miles high and hot. First, let's select our Fox 3 missiles and set up our radar. We are at 39,000 feet, Mach 1.3 and accelerating. I'm going to drop our tank so we can gain more speed. I will increase the radar distance from 40 to 80. With the target in the scanning area, I will use soft lock by clicking just once or using the undesignate button. 50 miles, Fox 3. Now I'm going to crank. This decreases the range of the opponent's radar a bit. Also, if he also shot a missile, we avoid flying straight at it and make it lose energy, because it will have to make a turn to hit us. However, note that by doing this, the opponent will start to move out of the scanning area. So we have to use the cursor to change the scanning direction to keep the target within the area and not miss our shot. We have to do this until our missile activates pitbull mode. But don't click on the target, as it will activate STT mode and alert the target of our shot. Five seconds to pitbull mode. From now on, the missile does not need the help of our radar. Splash target. That's it, folks. I tried to show you some of the functions of the F-18 radar. For some of you, this may be new, but for others, it may be not. Since the F-18 module is not a new module, many of you have been flying it for a long time. However, there are a large number of new players every day for whom this video may be useful. I'm not a pilot in real life, and I'm not an expert on the subject, but using the little knowledge I acquired flying this module since its launch, and trying to use a vocabulary that isn't too technical, I hope to help a little to everyone who watches this video. Any mistakes I made or suggestions you have, feel free to share them in the comments, and I will read them all. Many thanks, guys. Until the next video. See ya.